What was the Viking slave trade? Have you ever wondered how the Vikings, known for their fierce raids and exploration, also played a role in the slave trade during the Viking Age? This period, spanning from the late 8th century to the 11th century, saw the Vikings engaging in the capture and sale of human beings, often referred to as thralls. These individuals were treated as property and commodities within Viking society. The primary sources of slaves were violent actions such as raids and warfare. The Vikings targeted various places, including monasteries, villages, and towns across Europe. The British Isles were particularly affected, with many inhabitants captured and forced into slavery. This process was often brutal, as people were taken from their homes and transformed into property in an instant. Some individuals were born into slavery if both parents were enslaved, or if a freeborn father did not acknowledge his child with an enslaved mother. Additionally, poverty or debt within Nordic society could lead to voluntary or involuntary slavery. Children of slaves inherited this status, allowing the system to continue across generations. Once enslaved, these individuals primarily performed manual labor. They worked on farms, tended livestock, and completed household chores. A smaller number of slaves had specialized roles, such as artisans or attendants. Living conditions for slaves were generally harsh, with limited rights and frequent physical punishments. Treatment varied depending on the master and the specific role of the slave, but freedom of movement was typically restricted. The Viking slave trade was a vital economic activity. While some slaves remained with their captors, many entered a broader trading network. They were transported and sold in markets throughout the Viking world, reaching as far as Western Europe and into the river systems of Eastern Europe, including areas that are now part of Russia and Ukraine. Unlike modern concepts of slave markets, Viking slave transactions were usually small-scale, often involving the sale of one or two individuals at a time in various settlements. Key trading centers, such as Hedeby, located at the southern tip of the Jutland Peninsula, served as hubs for the exchange of slaves along with other goods like silver and spices. This trade was supported by agreements between Viking rulers and neighboring kingdoms to ensure safe passage and peaceful trade conditions. The Viking slave trade stands out as one of the largest human trafficking systems in Europe during its time. The Vikings were responsible for capturing and trading more slaves than many other societies of that era. This trade not only generated wealth but also contributed to the expansion and influence of Viking culture across Europe. In essence, the Viking slave trade was a complex system involving the capture, ownership, and sale of human beings. It was deeply embedded in the economic and social structures of Viking society, connecting various regions through commerce and significantly impacting the historical and cultural landscape of the Viking Age.